What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Usual, where we go beyond what you're used to. I'm Paulizé Anthony, and I am joined by Keleisha Lashaye. And today we have a great topic to talk about, and I feel like it really hits home with a lot of people. Today, we're going to be talking about goals versus behavior and environment. Now, here's the preference of this topic. Do your thoughts, behavior, and environment align with where we want to be? And I think this is a really key topic to talk about because a lot of the times we experience certain things in our lives and it leads us to believe that this is how life is, especially if the experience isn't really conducive to our growth, right? But the thing is, you have to understand that everything happens for your growth. Nothing ever happens to you. And so we have to really pay attention to our environment and what evidence is bringing to us that lets us know where we are and is it in alignment with where we are going. So I really like this topic. And yeah, we're going to dive into it. First off, how you feeling today?
I am feeling very light. Light and free. Yes.
And does your environment reflect that?
Yes.
See? That's part of it too, is speaking your life into existence, right? Because the more you speak it into existence, the more evidence you start to see of the evolution of your environment and yourself. What are some indicators though that lets you know that you're in alignment with the path that you set for yourself? Like, what are some things that you look for that lets you know, like, okay, I'm on the right path?
I look for little signs. I feel like I'll start to see or maybe hear through like conversations with people, like something, like when we first talked, like our first chat that we had before we started the series, like things were said that it was like sparked on both of our ends, I believe, where we were just like, oh, wow, like I was recently thinking about that. Or I have like a different way of saying it, but it's like we're saying the same thing. I find alignment in the small things. And it just shows up. Like people will come into your life that like may, validate something that like has been occurring, or you might hear a message from a song, like, like something, it's like small things like that that just like, I'm like, okay, all right, let's keep going, I think sometimes we get in our head, we think we look for these like grand things that like, oh, this means that my life is going the way it should. And it's like, it's not always in the big things, It's very often in little small, sometimes silent, little validations and things that show that we are in alignment. I think before, when I was really looking at the bigger, or looking for the bigger signs, I was missing a lot of things that was telling me that, girl, you're exactly where you need to be. You're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
I like that. The thing that comes to mind when you say that is, no matter how much, and this is a sign of growth, right? That you're in the right direction. No matter how much you try to dim your light, you still somehow shine brighter than anything. Like, people call it playing humble. Like, you're just being humble and appreciative and stuff like that. But in essence, you're dimming your light because you, in your mind, feel like you're not where you want to be. But in reality, you've come further than you once was, right? And so people see that and people treat you as the person that you've grown into. And to me, that's an indicator letting you know that you've grown, because your environment, again, reflects to you who you've become. And it reflects in the people, not just in the things or the physical aspects, but it's in the people as well. The way they interact with you. the conversations that come up whenever y'all are, connecting. It doesn't matter who you're connecting with. The conversation is always going to be geared towards the person that you are growing into. And so no matter how much you try to play humble, no matter how much you try to be like, oh, it's just, just try to play it cool, your light is always going to shine bright because of the things you've had to overcome. Like sometimes, and we experience this sometimes too, we get imposter syndrome because we feel like we don't know enough or we haven't grown enough to the levels that we need to be to affect change in the way that we see it. But in essence, we grow so much to the point where change just happens. Like we just affect change almost automatically, even when we don't feel like we are. And so it shows up because people will let you know, like, even if they don't let you know, like up front, the effect is going to show.
Yeah.
So
vibration is definitely going to change.
Yeah.
And that just goes again, and it speaks into the importance of alignment and why not only our behaviors and really our thoughts and beliefs that lead to, that shape the behavior, but also why the environment is important too, because a lot of times our brain always wants to focus on the negative. The ego always wants to go to, why something is or is not. And a lot of times we think that our growth is stunted. We think because we're not where we want to be, things aren't happening how we want them to happen. And I like the word that you mentioned before, like becoming like a victim, essentially. Like we just think this is just how things are, or this is the way this is because this happened to me, et cetera, et cetera. But it's very important to do these little like self-analysis, if you will, where we can not only like look at, okay, is my goal in alignment with me and who I want to be, right? We're not even gonna say like who we are or who we were, but where we want to be. Is it in alignment with that? But then also, when we determine that it is in alignment, is my thoughts and beliefs and my behaviors, is it supporting that goal? You know what I mean? And then the environment as well. Because sometimes our environment is too small for our goals. Mm. And just like, I don't know if we talked about that on the recent episode that we discussed, or if this was just in my head. But I just had the idea about like a plant, if the plant is like in a pot that's too small, it's going to stunt its growth. And it may eventually even lead to like the plant rotting and dying because the pot is not big enough. The soil, so it's the same thing with us. Like we have to make sure that our environment is big enough for our goals.
I like that. Yes, we have to make sure that our environment is sustainable for us to grow. Because a lot of the times, our environments can really stunt our growth, or they can really propel us forward. And I feel like this: the environments that you come out of speaks highly to the person that you are becoming, because not everybody can make it out. We get this pretty frequently, me and Ashley. It's like anywhere we go, people always have the same impression of us. It's like, y'all think differently, or y'all are just, I can tell you're not from here because the way that you think is not the way that everybody else thinks. Mm-hmm. And so I say that because a lot of people in their environments, they get stuck and they don't see a way out. Even though there is a way out, they haven't been exposed to different opportunities or different options as to what they can be or what they can do, right? And so you show up in these rooms, you show up in these places, and you, in a sense, are the opportunity, right? Or you are the example of what the opportunity looks like whenever you decide to step forward and step out. And that's the key, because people will only treat you as well as you know yourself, right? And when you know yourself and you walk into certain environments, people are going to adjust accordingly, right? And it's not like some like like you do it intentionally. It's the law. Like when you're following the principles and the laws of the environment of the universe, it's automatic that things are just going to shift because that's just how the law of nature works, right? The whole adage of as above, so below, right? It just naturally happens. And you see that, people start to adjust to the person that you becoming and everything in your environment starts to adjust to. Like just the other night, right? So Ashley went to go get her hair done. And, we was hungry. We was trying to find some places to go eat and stuff like that. And, we was feeling sushi. And I never really been in this area before, but I looked up a few spots. The first place we went to, they was closing. So we went to the next spot. And this next spot was so nice and elegant. The ambiance was great, right? And in my mind, I was like, this is us. This is our space. Like, because it fits the people that we have become. Mm-hmm. So it's only natural. And that's the law. That's the law. Like, you are going to naturally gravitate towards the thing that you are in vibrational or, you're in vibrational alignment with. So it's only a matter of time before you start to see the results of all the work and all the effort that you've been putting in. Because, like, even with this show, this right here happened because we were both in alignment. We were both on the same frequency. Because things like this don't just happen like that. Like, nobody just starts like day one. Was it day one? This is probably like day 3.
3, yeah, I think. Yeah.
And it was just like,
but we only had like one chat before, we even decided to, hit record and just go from there,
Yeah. That's all it took. All it took was one conversation. And it's funny because you find these like-minded individuals and it's like the things that y'all connect on, the ideas that you share just make sense. It just makes sense. And it works out in all aspects of life.
Yeah. That really, I love that. And especially the whole sushi thing. And it's so important for us to, I love the idea of it being from within. But then it makes me speak to like, and especially, as a shadow work coach, I'm working with, people that they're like, how do I get there? Right. Like, and I think sometimes before we can even begin to like notice the shifts within ourselves and it, flowing into our external environments, it's like, that is why the importance of environment is so important. And when I say environment, it's not just about like, okay, literally the places we go. This is the things that we're feeding into ourselves, like, the things we watch, the music we listen to, the people that we talk to every day. Now, mind you, of course, yes, as a coach, like we talk to people that may not be on the same vibration as us, but we also like have a different level of being able to like, we know how to kind of separate and create boundaries, right? But like and I mean, this goes for us too, because we still have to, when we're not in coach mode, like we still have to be careful what we pour into ourselves. But it's very important to understand, to look at what is my goal, and are the people that I'm around, are they supporting this goal? Because we can't say, oh, I want peace and I want, let's just say peace, but then the people we're talking to are peaceful. They're always they're always negative, and they're always talking about like what's wrong with the world. And, even when, those people that like, they might see something positive, but they always find something negative to say about it. You can't say that you want that, but your environment isn't supporting it. We need, until we get to a point where we can be accountable of ourselves and our thoughts and beliefs, and we can learn to reframe and challenge our beliefs and create the shift and the transformation we need to get closer to our goals, we have to create the environment that is going to support and nurture that and hold us accountable. So in essence, while this is a platform and it is for teaching purposes and all those things, but you're holding me accountable. I'm holding you accountable. You know what I mean? Us having these conversations on a weekly basis. So I can't say that, oh, I want to be a shadow work coach and here I am, just literally just every day, just being, I'm just gonna watch TV all day. I'm just gonna chill and not, like I have to do the things and be around the people that are going to help me keep myself accountable until I can do it myself. And I think that's why the importance of learning is so, like, that's why it's so important. It's because sometimes we're not at the level of being able to do it by ourselves, right? And that's okay. Like we don't have to have any shame, any guilt around that because we've all been there. And I still go there sometimes, but it is a very important for community. So the people that we are people speaking life into you, or are they just like, oh yeah, things are just the way they are and this is just how it is? Like, no, we can't stay in those rooms.
For real.
So let me ask you, because before, I think this is a great transition into the next topic, but like what guidance would you give someone, a client who is encountering like resistance in reaching their goals because of whether it's like self-sabotage or even just unhealed like shadows?
So I would say you have to first off understand the difference between experiences and conditioning. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the times our experiences are what condition us to think in a certain pattern. And so in order for you to overcome this limiting belief that you have about your experiences, right, is that you have to first understand the conditioning. Like, well, I would say understand the experience that brought the condition on, and then transmute the condition in order to change your experience, right? So whenever you're faced with, because life doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, right? Everybody says history repeats itself, but I don't believe that. Well, history doesn't really repeat itself, but it rhymes. So if you study history, you can see a pattern in today's society, right? And you can do the same thing with your life. If you really research or go back into the experiences that you had, you can see why you feel the way you feel about your present experiences. And so when you're presented with certain experiences in your life, in order for you to recorrect the conditioning that you have to face it. You have to challenge it. In a sense, it's like you're challenging yourself or the old aspect of who you are. And it's about neuroplasticity, right? It's about learning. It's about understanding yourself and how you learn. One thing that I'm always adamant about, and that's the root of what I talk about, is your intelligence type and your psychic abilities, because I feel like we all have and possess psychic abilities. It doesn't mean that you can move things with your mind. It's not what psychic means. It's just understanding your brain and how it functions and how it operates, right? And so when you get into these realms of conditioning, you start to understand that, okay, I have a certain intelligence type, which means I learn a specific kind of way. And if you break it down, you can see what skills that you possess, and you can also see where the areas that you lack in as well. And so when you're conditioning or reconditioning yourself, you take these elements and you put it into your present reality, and you see, okay, what can I do right now to improve this current reality that I'm living? What can I do right now to implement the strategies that I have developed in my intelligence type and in my psychic ability, so that way I can overcome, and now I can break the chain of this experience that I am currently experiencing? Because you're going to continue to repeat the same lesson until you learn how to overcome it. So it doesn't matter where you move. It doesn't matter if you try to change your relationships. You're going to experience the same experiences in a different manner. But the only way you identify that you're experiencing a similar experience is through the conditioning that you're feeling. So if the same feeling comes up in certain experiences, that lets you know like, oh, okay, I know what this is. I know what this feels like. And I know how to overcome it because I've experienced this before. And doing my own history on myself, like doing the research and data on myself, I know how to overcome this because I went through the process of learning myself. So whenever I experience this again, boom, I can cut straight through it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's why it's really important to like journal, so you can kind of keep track of these patterns and keep track of like the consistencies, you know, that have been your life. Um, that's dope. I love that though, that perspective.
yeah, it's true.
You know, it's cool to move things with my mind.
The mind is a truly beautiful thing, and it's something that is still being researched to this day. Like some of the greatest scientists in the world still don't really understand the full capabilities of the mind. And I feel like everything is systematized in our minds. Like if you look at things from a systematic perspective, you can understand yourself better. Like you can understand your thoughts and how your thoughts affect your feelings and how your feelings affect your actions and how your actions are literally just a collective of everything that you've ever experienced. So it's just like this big melting pot of all of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And left unchecked, you can do things that are really not you because you just don't know how to sift or siphon through all of that because you never took the time to be still. And so I would tell somebody, if you really truly want to master your life, if you really truly want to overcome and really step into your greatness, you have to practice mindfulness. And mindfulness is just literally pulling your attention into the present. We're always thinking about the past, which a lot of us do. And we're always thinking about an unforeseen future because based on the projections that we are receiving, we are creating the future. Mm-hmm. And I'm a believer that the past, the present, and the future are all happening at one time because it never leaves you. Like the past, you are your past. Like you presently, you are your past. And all of that shapes your future. But it's like clay. You have the opportunity to really mold it. Like, yeah, okay, you may have been given some bad clay or whatever the case is. But you have the ability to mold that clay into what you desire it to be for your future. So mindfulness is key.
I think that's a great segue into the next topic about you. I love that you had said, nothing changes until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change.
Yes. Yes. That's something, shout outs to my coaches and my mentors, because they gave that gem to me. And I've carried it with me for a while because, again, it goes back to the indicator of your emotions. And a lot of us feel that. We feel the pain of regret and we feel the pain of growth. So the statement is true. Nothing changes until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. And some people live their lives dreading the pain of change because it's like it hurts to change, but it also hurts to stay the same. But the hurt of staying the same is not as bad as the pain of change. There's an old adage, and I'm pretty sure you've heard it before, and it's like there's this guy and he's walking past his neighbor's house and he hears this dog and he's just crying. And so he walks up to his neighbor and he asks, like, what's wrong with your dog? And he's like, oh, the dog's laying on the nail. And he's like, well, why doesn't the dog move? And he's like, well, because it doesn't hurt enough. So the dog is just laying on that nail because it's hitting him just enough for him to tolerate it, but not enough for the dog to move. And that's what everybody's doing. Everybody is living in tolerance, but nobody is living in obedience. Nobody is living in the true essence of who they are and who they can become. And it's really because when you're pressed or when you get the feeling to do something, like, and it's helpful for your growth, a lot of us tend to run or shy away from that because it's like, oh, well, that's too hard, or that's never been done before, or it seems impossible, because you hit that first hurdle and you may trip a little bit, and then that just throws you off your path completely. Like, nah, this ain't it. But that was only the first hurdle. There's multiple hurdles that you got to overcome, but on the other side of that is the greatness that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to do, and it's hard not to do. You have to be able to choose your hard. You have to be able to, yeah, which hard you want. You know,
and that's really powerful, because I think even just thinking about it, the pain of remaining the same, you're already hurting. Mm. You're already uncomfortable. Mm. You're already dissatisfied. You're already tired. You know what I mean? Like, and these are the same feelings, the same energies that you're going to have to go through during this transformation and this unknown. It's just, that's what it is. It's the unknown that scares us away. It's the unknown that makes us think like, oh, I don't have the tools. I don't have the abilities. But we are created by God through the image of God. Are you telling me that you're saying you don't got the capabilities? Like, this amazing source of power created you, and you're telling me they didn't give you the tools that you need. You know what I mean? Like, if you really think about it, one thing I always ask a client is, and this is before they become a client, what is it going to cost you to remain the same? And it's usually in their answer. The last person that I had that actually just became a client, like, he was like, oh, I already know. Like, I already know I'm already hiring you, and I'm going to hire you for after the original 6-7 months too. Like, he was like, because it was how, after he told me, well, before I even asked him the question, I gave him the examples of previous people that I've helped. And I talked about how they went from living in chaos to peace. Like, you talk about where we were and where we got to. And it's in that shift, that like connecting piece, that's where the power is. But for them to understand and really focus on the cost of staying the same, that means I'm going to continue the cycle. That means I'm going to continue to be like emotionally exhausted. I'm going to continue to feel like I'm just, like, my brain is just going everywhere. Like, I just don't feel like I have control. That was a big key word that I've seen with clients, is feeling just chaotic, out of control, not at peace, and ultimately just unhappy and unsatisfied, even just not liking themselves. So I think if we really focus on the cost to stay exactly where we are in that same environment with the same behaviors, that is where we can find the motivation. And that's where we can find, okay, you know what? Yeah. I think I'm ready to endure the pain of change, because I don't want to stay where I am anymore. I'm tired of this shit. Like, essentially, that's where we have to get to, is I am tired of this. But if I have to balance out like the pain of being where I am, or the pain of potentially doing better, like, okay, I can choose.
And everything has a choice. You know what I think? I feel like it comes down to simplicity and complexity. Because, and I got it written down right here, it's like complexity is easy, but simplicity is hard. And I feel like it comes down to just overcomplicating situations. And it stems from conditioning. We're conditioned to work hard for less. And so we feel as though to work on ourselves is going to take so much work. Like, oh my gosh, I got this and that. But really, in reality, it's so simple. And the fact that people are talking to you is because you're making it simple for them. Like, it's like you can't see the problem or you can't see the solution because you're too close to the problem. But when you actually take a step back, you can be like, oh, it's not, the problem's not really that big. It's just, I was just so close to it that it seemed bigger than what it actually was.
The view was obstructed.
Yes. The view was obstructed. And so it's so simple. Life is really simple, but we create the hard things. And I think we do it intentionally because we want to grow, but somehow we don't rise to the level that we intend to rise to because the difficulty, we can't see ourselves overcoming it, or we don't have the tools to really overcome what it is that we're trying to overcome.
Or we don't think we have.
Or we don't think yet. Yeah.
I think that is really the key. I mean, the solution to life is mindset. Mm. That's really how simple it is. It's really just our mindset. If we don't think we have the tools, then we do not. Mm. If we don't think we have opportunity, then we do not. Mm. If we don't think that we're going to grow, if we don't think that we're going to change, then we're not. Mm. And I think if we can reframe to go from the unknown, like to change that fear of the unknown into excitement for opportunities, excitement for possibility, then shifting the focus to the growth that we can potentially have versus obviously the cost of staying the same, that is where we're going to have the shift. And one thing I always try to remind people, because like we said, like sometimes we be trying to make these like momentous, like just very big leaps. And I think it's okay to not be there. Mm. It's okay to not be able to not have the capacity to do that. And I always tell clients, baby steps are still progress. Mm. If you take one step at a time, you will still get to the top of the steps. Like you'll still get there. It may not be in the time frame that you originally thought, but again, that speaks to the expectation, which we've talked about before. Letting go of that expectation and just creating maybe smaller steps that are still attainable for us, that will still get us to the same destination that we're trying to get to. And then like also celebrating those wins, celebrating those little steps, because like you said earlier, like we've already shifted. And even just being in the mindset of like asking the question, is the pain of where I am greater than the pain of where, of getting to where I want to be? Even asking ourselves that question is a win. Because yourself from maybe a year ago, 5 years ago, yesterday, wasn't asking that question. Didn't even start to open the door of potential opportunities of growth. You know what I mean? So that's still a win. And being able to really like just salivate on that and celebrate those wins is going to create like, it's a ripple effect. It is a ripple effect.
Wow. We really don't recognize the changes that we make in every instance, in every moment in our lives. And it starts, like you said, with that question. The moment you ask that question, you instantly shift it. Your paradigm is shifted. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that, I'll phrase it like this. You don't need to know what it looks like. You need to know what it feels like. And this is perfect because it talks about, we talk about behavior and environment. So do you think it's important to know what it looks like first? Or do you think it's important to know what it feels like first before you can actually see it?
I mean, I am big on energy. So I think being in the vibration of like, like how they say with manifestation, like if you're in the vibration of like you already have it, so you feeling it, like it's already there, that is a shift, even if we can't physically see it. So I do believe that is, can be more impactful. And I'll tell you an example, like, this is not something that I can prove either, but when I was in the Army, listen, I joined the Army, I can do a push-up to save your girl's life, okay? Like if somebody said do 2 push-ups, 2 proper push-ups, oh, listen, I've lived a good one. Like if it's my time, it's my time. But I remember getting to a point, and I like it's now that I see it clearly, but even then I did not at the time. But what I did was I kept practicing. Now, physically, your girl was still, I was out here, like struggling, and you laugh because you know what I mean. I know you've seen some horrible push-ups.
Yes.
So physically, I still wasn't doing the thing. I still was not, properly with the right form, et cetera, et cetera. But what I kept doing, I remember reading, because I've always been into psychology, and that's been, something that I've studied for years. But I remember a study about them saying that the group study that they did, the people they had a group that was doing the thing, and they had a group that was thinking about doing the thing. So what I did, I started imagining, I started seeing myself in my head practicing. And I was doing this multiple times a day, every day. I don't even know what shifted for me to cause me to do this, but I was doing it. And one day, and I actually did this, and I stopped practicing. Crazy. I kept doing the thing in my head. I kept feeling like I was doing it. Like I'm maxing my PT test in my head. Okay. Right. I was doing this on leave, when I wasn't even like, actually like practicing it. And the next time that, I want to say it was a couple weeks of doing this daily. And the next time that I actually physically tried to do this, I was able to do a push-up. And I know, like, again, I can't explain the science of it, but I just remember I was practicing perfect form in my head. I was practicing, like, I was feeling like I was already doing it, even though I would try and I was like, oh, okay, like everything. I'm just laying out on the ground because I tried and my body it's not doing the things that I needed to do. But after practicing and being in that mindset and feeling the energy of, I'm already doing this. This is already a thing. This isn't a problem.
Yeah.
When I got ready, I did the thing. Now, I couldn't max the PT test yet, but I was able to do the 1 and the 2, the 5 and the 10 that I couldn't do previously to that. So absolutely, feeling it and changing the mindset of it is really going to get you there further sometimes than seeing, because sometimes we in a space that we can't see it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like you said, we haven't been exposed to being able to even see it as an option. But if we actually just, it's not even a problem. I'm already there. I'm already there. I'm already there to go. Sometimes that's enough to shift in the background. It may not be like at the forefront where we're seeing it like daily, right? Because I wasn't able to see it. But when I tell you, I got up and I like did that one, and I was like, I'm looking around like, did y'all like see that? Because like this,
Yeah.
So absolutely.
I like that. That brings me to like ascension. And in regards to what you said about the brain, the thing that comes to mind is neuroplasticity, right? And the brain creates many neurons based on every experience that it has. And in regards to ascension, I feel like whenever you're growing and evolving, and this is just from my experience, you need an ascension name. You need a name that can define the ascension that you are experiencing. And so for me, I go by Paulizé, right? And Paulizé is who I've created. And essentially, he's everything that I've always aspired to be. He's a thought leader. He's methodical. He's very philosophical. He's strong. He's brave. He's, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I show up as that. And when I first got started on my journey, there was those that had opinions about my journey and where I was. And so as I was going throughout my journey and, I was feeling like, dang, well, maybe this isn't the right path. That's when Paulizé appeared. And it was like, oh, nah, this is who you are. And whenever you feel like you're not who who people say you're not, then that's when Paulizé shows up, because you've already done the work, all the reading, all the meditation, all of the practices that you've been doing, like all the learning yourself and learning how to learn, like all of these things have created this. And so, like you said, you've seen it in your mind first, before you actually saw it in reality. I saw myself doing these things right here before I actually saw it in my reality. I saw myself speaking on stages. I saw myself inspiring thousands upon millions. I saw myself really speaking like some of the greatest philosophers in the world, because that's what I embodied and that's how I saw myself. And so I continued to show up as that. And therefore, I got more refined, I got better. My mind expanded it back to that neuroplasticity. My mind expanded, and the things that I wasn't using or weren't or no longer of service to me, it just dropped off.
Yeah.
And my mind just continued to grow. And so that speaks to your level of learning. And I feel like a lot of us stop learning, and that's where we stop growing, because there's growth in knowledge, there's growth in learning. And so the more you continue to learn, the more you continue to want to grow and really see the potential and capabilities in which you possess. So you're never going to stop learning. And especially in this field that we're in, this arena that we're in, you're never going to stop learning. There's always something new to learn. There's always a new tool, a technique to implement.
A different perspective to have.
Yes. And you know, the beautiful thing about it, you're willing to let go of things that don't serve you in order to add on things that do. So if the thought process that you currently possess is no longer in service to you, you're not willing to be like, well, no, this is all I've ever known, and I'm going to try to hold on to this. No, you're willing to go.
Listen, because if you learned one thing, you can learn a new thing, you know?
Yeah. Like just imagine if you kept holding on to the thought of, I can never do a push-up. You would have lived your entire life stunted at the capacity in which you were currently, or at the capacity in which you was. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
and that's dope. And it, once I got in that energy, once it went from the feeling to it manifesting in my reality, and once that alignment happened, like there was a new level of confidence. There was a new level of resilience. Because if you know how to, like, listen, do a push-up, like there's a lot that comes into it. I never really realized like how much core and the importance of like how my body is aligned, and like there's like so many factors that go into it. So once you achieve that sweetness of success and it manifests into your reality, it's a new, like the you know, like it's like, you know how horses, like they have those blinders, like it's like they were removed, because I'm like, wow, like I didn't even know this was possible. Okay, I've achieved this and I went through this pain of getting there. But guess what? Like now, what? Like let me move this goalpost. Like maybe there's another goal that I can achieve. Maybe I can actually get to max in the PT test. You know, maybe I can do more than these 5. So it's like that continual state of growth. We are students of self and life, and that really just goes to, I love, like it really resonated what you said about kind of getting into this space of like being, you know, like coaching and being thought leaders. It's like, I remember because there's been some people that have been really key players on my journey of me getting to where I am today. And I remember there's this guy, he's vegan. He is all about like meditation and spirituality in general. Like he's deep into the stuff. Like he probably knew more about like the woman's body and like the importance of like he talks about the importance of silence, the importance of meditation, the importance of what we eat, how it affects our, like just everything. And I remember like I used to always be on his lives, and I joined his lives a couple times. And I remember like being initially, like, you know, when you send the request and everything, like, I mean, I'm talking about heart, like just beating, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm about to be on video, like potentially, da 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 da. And I just remember getting to a space and I was just like, wow, like I could do this, because people are joining his lives. He's having like, you know, hundreds of people in the audience. People are joining because they just know like he is a sort, like they are on in, you know, alignment with his vibration, to, because like I can see myself there. He's providing value. He's providing solutions. He's providing a safe space for people. He has, and he doesn't just teach, like he like framed it so he would have like the first 30 minutes to an hour of him teaching a specific topic. And then he opens it up for questions, and he's really big on community. And I was just like, I really see myself. Like, I literally remember being like, I felt the pain of like, I'm in here. And there was times that I requested and I, ended up not, going on because so many other people were requesting. But I was just like, I'm trying, because there's something that I need to say. Like, there's something I need to get out of me. And it finally shifted to where I'm like, what is preventing you from doing this? What is preventing you from being in the same, space that he is? Of course, not doing exactly the same thing, but from you being able to speak your truth, from you going live. Like, you could just press a button and go live. Now, yeah, you may not start with hundreds of people in your audience, but what is preventing you from showing up in the same way that he's showing up? And that was the point where it started to shift for me, where I started to realize that the pain of being the same and just hitting the request button, it was no longer greater than the pain of change and potential unknown. And again, I think that's a great segue into, us talking about everything that we're going through is preparing us for a great comeback story.
Definitely. I like that. Ooh, you know how to segue, boy. Hey. Everything is preparing us for a great comeback. Like, literally. I feel like we are the authors of our stories, right? We're the architects of our environments. And so that's the purpose of why we do what we do, because we overcame a certain pain that felt like it was never going to leave. And we know that there's others that feel that same way, and they feel like their circumstances are just set in stone. And so when you look at it from that perspective, like, think of some of your favorite speakers or some of your favorite like coaches or mentors. A lot of them, their stories, their redemption stories are just so powerful, because it's like, dang, I couldn't have gone through that and overcame that, And a lot of us look at our stories like that. Like, we look back, like sometimes I look back and I be like, dang, I don't know how we came that, but somehow I did, And we're even still in that process, because there's never not going to be a time where you're not overcoming something, because life is going to constantly challenge you to grow and evolve. And you can really pull lessons from every experience that you've had. And that's where that comeback comes in. Because honestly, when you go through things and you look at it from that lens, honestly, to others, it sounds crazy. It's like, what are you talking about? This is going to make a great comeback story. It's like, I look forward to going through certain periods in my life of like trial and error, right? Because I know that there's going to be something great from it. And I've learned to lean into that. Like, if I feel something in me and it feels uncomfortable, it's because, there's growth there, right? And I look forward to seeing where the growth lies, because it may not appear as I envision it to be, but it's going to come in a way that pushes me in a way that allows me to grow even more, right? And so the comeback story is truly in the making. Like, this right here, what we're doing right here is going to be a comeback story, because
there's going to be live one day. We're not even going to like just be talking to ourselves. This is going to be live, and people are going to just be soaking in what we're talking about. They're going to be asking us questions instead of us asking each other questions. They're going to be asking us questions. We're going to be, like, this is
it's the motion. It's that energy and motion right now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about comeback stories? Like, how do you know that this is just something that's setting you up for a major comeback?
Well, one thing I'll say is I'm a huge believer in everything outside of me is a projection of me. So, like, I remember I used to listen to E.T. the hip hop preacher a lot. Like, I love the way he speaks with such power and authority and passion, and I know it's not for everybody, because like sometimes he be sounding like he be yelling, but sometimes, it was speaking to me at the time. And while I may not go through the same stuff he went through, I know what stimulated the seed for me from him was his story, his struggles. Now, no, I've never eaten out of trash cans, but it was him sharing that and him being vulnerable enough to not only share his struggle, but also like, listen, I've been at the bottom. I've dug the hole and been in there by myself, but I'm not there anymore. I got to the point where I chose different. Despite my circumstances, despite my environment, despite the cards that I've been dealt with. And it is in that I realized that's what planted a seed for me to realize, like, oh girl, like, yeah, you can do this. I could see you speaking on stages. I could see you, somebody paying for your flight to go to New Zealand to speak. You know what I mean? I can see you being in schools and speaking to women, and shelters and things like that. Like, it is what helped me to make the shift. So sometimes we get to a space where we don't have the confidence. We don't see, we don't see the potential, the opportunity for ourselves. But if we think about people that have impacted us and thought about where they were and where they are now, it's possible because they're a projection of me. I am them. It just might manifested into my current reality. So when I think about that and think about how it really made me shift, it's in that change, it's in that transformation, it's in that journey that's going to be the seed for someone else. It's going to be that seed that might save that person's life. It's going to be that seed that might have healed a generational pattern. I don't like to say curse, but a generational pattern in someone's family. It's going to be the seed that might help somebody in their relationship. It's going to be the seed that helps somebody to see, like, oh, you know what? This has been boundary issues my whole time. Like, I can change this, Like, it's going to be exactly what somebody needs to make their shift so they can start, like, to actually be the writer for their comeback story. So in times where I haven't felt like it's powerful, I think about other people because, again, they're me.
Facts. The comeback is all about main character energy, right? It's about being the main character in your story, because a lot of us can fall victim to our circumstance and think that, well, there's no way out. And so the comeback is truly about showing up. That's literally what it is. It's just showing up in the worst cases. For example, like me, I'm a little under the weather right now, right? And there could be a million excuses, 1,000 excuses to not show up today. Like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Oh, this happened, that, whatever the case is, right? I still continue to show up anyway because I will thank myself in the long run. And essentially, it's creating a habit, creating a new habit. Comeback is all about creating habits, better habits, positive habits, because you can look back on the days when you was at your lowest and see how you showed up. So that way, when you're at a stage where, okay, life is good, and then something else happens, you can look back on the times when you was even lower or you was at a lower period, and you can say, oh, look, I overcame that, and I can see how that made me better. I can overcome this as well. So you're instilling that habit within you because it becomes a condition. It becomes a condition that no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to show up anyway. It doesn't matter if my financial circumstances aren't the best. It doesn't matter if my car isn't working as it should. It doesn't matter if the bills are behind. It doesn't matter if my health isn't at its best. I still continue to show up anyway, because the way I show up now is going to be the way I show up whenever I'm quote unquote successful, right? So you have to continue to cultivate that, right? You have to continue to cultivate that energy, cultivate that habit within you, because life is always going to happen to you. And there are 1,000 excuses that are valid, like true, they are true. But what purpose are they going to serve to you? How are they going to help you? How are they going to benefit your growth? You can either show up or you can just fall to the wayside. There's the only two choices you have.
And that's I love that, because that, again, this was alignment, because one of the things I've been working on is for my new client with this first module. And the module for my coaching program that I've been working on is really digging into the core wounds that we have. And with our core wounds, because with our behavior, sometimes we can't even just, it's not about just changing the behavior, because we can do different things, but if we do not change the belief or the thought that led to shaping that behavior, we may still have this pattern of the lesson repeating itself, because we still haven't fully gotten it. We can be doing different things, but if we're still thinking the same things, like you said, sometimes we may end up getting a goal, but sometimes we don't even know what to do with it, because our mindset is not where it needs to be. So what we do in this, I created this like framework where we dig into what the thought or the belief is that helped to shape the behavior that leads to the pattern. We get really deep into it, because it is so important to look at, what was I thinking? What is the belief? Because a lot of times it stems from our childhood or adolescence, that things have been, what is it in psychology? They say confirmation bias. Like we're looking because we have a belief that's been reinforced through our experiences, right? If we think we're not enough, we're going to end up in relationships where we're constantly feeling like we're not enough, because people are either telling us, or we may end up in just certain environments because, it's an environment that supports the idea that we're not enough, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to keep repeating itself until we change that thought, that belief. So it's so important to not only just focus on the behaviors, but also the thoughts and the beliefs that led to that behavior, because that's how we're going to make the shift. And again, it's all about alignment.
I like that. That's powerful. That's really powerful. All right. I think was that all of them? Is that all the topics?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on you touched on the people only treat you as well as you know yourself. So, yeah, that was pretty much everything we said we were going to talk about today. That was a lot. That was a good amount.
That really was. So, homework, right? We're going to give some people some things to take home, right? So, I would say the first key, and then, you can give the next key, I would say, is mindfulness. Practice being present. Like, if you feel like your thoughts are leaning in the direction of the past, or you're trying to create a future that's unforeseen and you're just going based on your current circumstances, I would like for you to consider practice being mindful and focus on the things that are in your control instead of the things that are out of your control. What are some of the small things that you can do right now that can help move the needle forward? That can be journaling, that could be writing to create posts, whatever it looks like for you. What in your power can you do right now to move the needle forward? So mindfulness.
That's very important. And for, the people that may still be in the space of the pain of change still being greater than the pain of remaining the same, I would say start with awareness. Non-judgmental awareness, right? Like, not bashing ourselves for like, dang, I need to be doing different, No. Because just being aware of the patterns, being aware of the behaviors, being aware of the beliefs and the thoughts that we have is a great shift. Now, it's not something that just being aware is going to manifest in external reality per se. Like our life isn't going to just drastically just shift because of the awareness. However, that is a great step forward to be aware of, oh, you know, this triggered me at work. Like why I'm starting to notice every day I'm really like dreading going to work. I'm really dreading being around the people that I'm around. I noticed that the pattern of me constantly being drained after I talk to these people at work. Get curious about it. Where is that coming from? It might lead you to the feelings of or the beliefs that you're just really not, fulfilled, right? That is going to be the seed that might plant you and move that needle forward to the point of maybe I need to, like, what am I passionate about in life? What can I see myself doing every day that would light me up, that would make me excited? Even if I had to wake up at 4 a.m. every day, even if I had to wake up at 6 a.m. every day, you know what I mean? Like, what is it that is going to fuel me rather than drain me? So I think in the awareness and the curiosity is really a great space to be in. And it doesn't really involve a lot of like legwork. And that's just for, like I said, because sometimes we don't have the capacity to just, make the little shifts sometimes. It's about getting our mental right. And if we can understand why we're behaving the way we're behaving, why things are triggering us, then that's going to be a great first step to making small changes.
I like that. I like that. That's powerful.
That's homework. Just notice things and get curious and notice the patterns. And whether you journal about it, and journaling doesn't have to just be with a pen and paper. It can be an audio. It could be a voice note on your phone. It could be a video. You just recording a video.
Okay. That's good. That's a bar. That's a good lesson to take home. And I will say this will be the final one. Consistency doesn't equate to consecutiveness, meaning that in order to be consistent, you don't have to do one after the other. Consistency is just continuing to show up, even when you don't feel like showing up. Now, a lot of people will burn themselves out thinking like you got to go back to back to back to back to back, right? You got to keep showing up, whatever the case is. Consistency means that you do the work and you continue to refine the work that you're doing. So you may not post every single day, but you're consistent with posting, meaning that you don't let too much time in between the time that you last posted. Like there's not too much time in between that. You don't need to be posting 7 days a week. You can be posting 1 or 2 days a week, but that's consistency. So consistency is just finding a flow that works for you until it just becomes a habit, right? There's a rule that I follow. I think it's Paleto's rule, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it's no, that's not it. It's the 21-90 rule. It takes 21 days to build a habit and 90 days to build a lifestyle. So whatever that 21 days looks like for you, start building the consistency up now. So that way in the future, you won't need to utilize so much energy in doing whatever it is that you're doing. It becomes more effortless. The example, when I first started sharing content, it was hard for me to articulate the thoughts and the processes that I was going through. But I stayed consistent with what it is that I was doing. So now I can go into deeper topics. I can go into really profound philosophies, right? Really profound philosophies. But that's only because of the consistency. So just try to find some consistency with what it is that you're doing and watch how it changes your life.
Yeah, I love that.
That's it. So yeah, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for allowing us to be on this journey with you, and thank you for allowing us. Thank you for being on this journey with us, and thank you for allowing us to be on this journey with you. And I truly believe we do better when we grow together. So let's continue to grow with one another. If you found this helpful, inspiring, or motivating in any way, shape, or form, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified whenever another video becomes published. And also leave in the comment section what you learned from this video, and leave a comment of gratitude and appreciation.
All right, until next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.